It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
All right, we go under 4 minutes with Bez not having a rebound. Again, there was Conchar to the window, triple-double. John Conchar with back-to-back triple-doubles. 3 no good. Mbang, rebound, Mbang, triple-double. Jazz bench explodes. Bez goes coast to coast. Layup good. Technical foul on the Jazz bench for over-celebrating. Of course they are. It's the Bez Mbang triple-double night.
History made last night when the Jazz took down the Memphis Grizzlies. Welcome back to the Saturday Show. It is 97.5, the KSL Sports on Alex Napoles and Parker Long, taking you through this wonderful Saturday morning. And let's hit on the Jazz. There's one more game left of this 2025-26 season for the Jazz. They do get the win over the Memphis Grizzlies, but obviously what sticks out last night, Bez Mbang and John Conchar became the first pair of teammates in NBA history to record triple-doubles off the bench in the same game. Not only that, you have 3 players with triple-doubles last night. Obviously, Bez Mbang, John Conchar for the Utah Jazz, and then you do have a Memphis Grizzlies player who also had a triple-double. And so it is kind of funny that for the longest time, the Jazz couldn't get a single triple-double and couldn't get any player to come up with a triple-double. Now, all of a sudden, you have Nurk who goes, 3 games in a row with a triple-double? And then, obviously, last night, Bez Mbang and John Conchar making NBA history together.
Yeah, that's one of those weird trends in basketball where, like, you would think at some point during the, 10 or 12 years between triple-doubles that one would have happened. It wouldn't have been, and I forget who it was, but the first one that happened, and then JC's, Jordan Clarkson's, which I was at Delta Center for, which was awesome. It was super cool to see that. You would think somewhere in that period, someone would have a triple-double, but hey, you take them where you can get them. We got two last night in a game that ends up being mostly meaningless, but the history will always remember that happening. And now there's kind of a new standard, maybe not standard, but like a new kind of a high watermark for triple doubles that, future Jazzmen can aspire to.
Absolutely. You're right. You hit the nail on the head a little bit there with a game that is ultimately a little bit meaningless to the overall picture of the season for the Utah Jazz, except for the fact that it is the second to last game of the season. It was the final home game, and so the Jazz fans are rewarded with a win last night for, again, what people hope is the end of a rebuild, right? Is the end of this era of Utah Jazz basketball, where next season they can go on and push for the playoffs and see where this young core of players can take them heading into next season. And so they're rewarded with a win last night against the Grizzlies for sticking with it these last couple of years. And
even better, the way the results fell, they didn't give up a spot in the draft lottery.
They did not. I know, Jazz fans, I know how much you wanted the loss. I know how much you wanted to see this team lose to this Memphis Grizzlies team. And it probably would have worked out phenomenal for Jazz fans because Sacramento won against Golden State last night. Both now tied at 22 and 59. But if the Jazz would have lost, obviously the Jazz would have been at 21 and 60, and you would have been in a much better spot as far as making sure you have the fourth worst record in the NBA, which again would guarantee you your lottery pick. You wouldn't have to convey to Oklahoma City. Instead, though, you remain tied with Sacramento at 22-59, which means with one game left of the NBA season for the Utah Jazz, right now it'll come down to a coin flip. There's no tiebreakers for who gets what position. As far as where you land in the lottery odds, we're still down to the coin flip, Parker.
I'm shaking my head. You can't see it, but I'm shaking my head because I disapprove of that greatly.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jazz fans probably wanted the loss anyway. I don't think it would have ended up mattering because I believe Brooklyn lost. So they're at 20-61. You can't catch them. No, you can't. No. So you couldn't have moved up. Yes, you're right. It would have helped kind of secure your spot at the fourth. But ultimately, like the win was fun. The win was ultimately what we're trying to have with this Jazz basketball team, which was fun. They blew out Memphis. Yeah. David Locke, the play-by-play announcer for the Jazz, he mentioned last night during the call that basically what happened was both teams sort of ended up fielding G League teams.
Yes. Yeah.
The difference was that the Jazz had actual NBA talent on theirs with like Ace Bailey and Cody Williams. The Memphis did not.
Yeah.
You weren't going to win that game, so you weren't going to lose that game. Excuse me. You might as well have won that game by a ton, and just had a lot of fun with it. And it seemed like they had a lot of fun with it. Like Will Hardy was, interacting with the crowd.
Yes.
They were chanting for him to put Kevin Love in. He didn't. He didn't put Kevin Love in, but like they had those fun interactions. Cody Williams came and spoke. It was Fan Appreciation Night. Cody Williams came and spoke to the crowd before tip-off. It was just an awesome experience, and like to cap it off with a big historic win, I think is like the right thing to have happened. Instead of like, oh, another crushing loss for the Jazz. It marginally helps their draft odds, but nobody's having a great time. Like, where do you kind of like give up one thing to get the other?
Yeah. Heading into this game, the Memphis Grizzlies put out their injury report, and they had 12 players on there. They had 2 players that were doubtful/questionable. It ended up being 14 players out for the Memphis Grizzlies. That's over $128.2 million worth of salaries out for the Grizzlies. You look at the starting 5, you see, for the Jazz anyway, you see Cody Williams, you see Ace Bailey on there. Like, there is no way the Jazz aren't not going to win this game, And I'm glad that it turned into a history-making night. I'm glad that it turned into the guys going out there and having fun with it, rather than let's do our best to lose this game. Because the reality is with the way that the Grizzlies showed up to this game, like there's no way you were not going to win that game.
Yeah, I think you would have had to just forfeit
yeah.
to not win that game. So yeah, just have fun with it. Do what you're doing. Do what you're kind of wanting to do. And like have fun playing a kids game professionally. I think it just ended up being the right, not the right call to win. It's not like it's quite that easy, but the right move to try and win instead of trying your hardest to lose and make everybody miserable.
I did appreciate the outrage on social media about the Memphis Grizzlies injury report and about how many players they were sitting out versus this game against the Utah Jazz. Because again, it goes back to what happened a couple months ago where the Jazz get hit with this fine for winning a game in which they pulled their players. They ended up getting fined for that game against the Heat. Again, a game which they won. And then now you have the Memphis Grizzlies who have 14 players out. And of course, Adam Silver's just going to let this one fly.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it means is that the Memphis Grizzlies obviously we're tanking, so it's time to hit the Jazz with another fine. I mean, they won. they won a game in which at least one team was tanking. So obviously they need to be hit with another fine. Let's just take it up to a cool even million. Okay, Adam? Can I call you Adam? Mr. Silver?
I don't know if you're on that level yet.
Adam Silver is going to have to do a lot to earn my respect. He is not.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call him by his first name. Be a little disrespectful to him.
So the Jazz sitting at 22-59, the Sacramento Kings sitting at 22-59. Again, both tied heading into the final game of the NBA season. If both Sacramento and the Jazz lose, they'll be tied with the same record, and so it will come down to that coin flip to figure out which one's going to end up with the fourth, and which one's going to end up with the fifth, as far as the lottery odds go, which is super important because if you look at the pick odds, if the Jazz end up with in number 4, they have an 11.5% at the number 1. They'll have 2.4% to go down to 8, and they'll have 0. You can't go down to 9. And that's, of course, where you convey that pick. If they end up in 5th, you still have that 11.5 for number 1, but you have that 0.6% chance of conveying the pick with the number 9.
0.6 or 100?
Depending on which tinfoil hat you're wearing this morning.
Yeah.
So if the Jazz end up with that number 4, you hold on to that pick. You don't have to sweat it out probably as much come lottery night for the Utah Jazz. The NBA Board of Governors will meet on May 28 to vote on anti-tanking draft lottery reform. Right now, from the looks of it and what's being reported out there by Shams Charania of ESPN, is the 18-team lottery is the preferred method right now as far as the Board of Governors goes, where that the bottom 10 that missed the play-in and 8 that qualify, both 10 teams. Bottom 10 teams will have an 8% chance of moving up in the lottery. The other 8 teams will split 20% odds of moving up, and all 18 spots will be drawn as part of the lottery. That is the one that's gaining traction out there, and so May 28th will be the day that the changes will be made as far as the anti-tanking draft lottery reform goes. It's a good thing the Jazz won't be having to deal with this next season.
So I have thought about this a lot, and I have some in-depth analysis about this new proposal. There were a few of them, but this one that's kind of making the rounds. I have some in-depth analysis that I want to get to.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That was good.
That is exactly how I feel.
That's good.
Billy Madison summed up how I feel about really the NBA lottery in general, but definitely these anti-tanking proposals. And I wanted to ask you about this. We were talking a little bit during the break about this. Do you feel like Adam Silver is trying too hard to control the way that basketball is being played within the NBA? Like the on-the-court product and the kind of the decisions that in my mind should be left up to the coaches, general managers, things like that. Is he trying too hard to kind of rein that in and make them do what he wants them to do?
It seems like he is, because on top of this anti-tanking draft lottery reform that will be voted on, there's also the floating out ideas of how to punish teams that are tanking, more severe punishments, like the commissioner giving the liberty to take away first-round picks. Giving the commissioner more power to punish these teams who are in these situations, rather than helping or making sure that your bad teams have an avenue to get better.
Yeah, that's...
And saying, hey, you give me the power to take away those draft picks, and I have and ultimately have more control in the NBA.
So, are we sure that Adam Silver isn't actually a Sith Lord?
Trying to actively mess up the game of basketball. Another thing too that's being floated out there. I guess there was a call with Adam Silver that happened earlier this week too, where they floated out an idea of a 22-team lottery where the bottom 3 teams get 5% odds, and the 4 to 6 bottom teams get 6% as an anti-tanking measurement. So essentially, the bottom 3, the worst teams in the NBA, have lower odds of getting the number 1 overall pick than a team who's in 4th to 10.
That is insane.
And apparently Adam Silver's like, yeah, I kind of like that idea.
I mean, I will say, to defend him for just a second, you don't want to dismiss any idea out of hand necessarily, because until you know kind of what the deeper ramifications are, you want to keep all ideas on the table. That said, that idea is stupid. That idea is moronic, and I don't like it, and I will tell you why. Simply because, so I want to do a comparison really quick between the NBA draft and the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. The NFL, in my mind, this is my opinion, is the be-all, end-all of good drafts. Where, yes, you do have some amount of tanking in the NFL. That's inevitable. If you reward teams for losing, teams that have no chance of competing are going to try and lose on purpose somehow, some way. You cannot stop that. It's impossible, because they will find a way to lose no matter what. So just having a draft where the worst team gets the first pick and then the second worst team gets the second worst pick, so on and so forth, or best pick, so on and so forth, works really well in its simplicity. I think the NBA draft with the lottery, the way it is currently constructed, I'm sure there's a way that a lottery could work. This is not it. Yeah. This is not the direction that you need to be going. You are overcomplicating things. And quite frankly, you are making it impossible for not only anyone to follow, but also just for anyone to care. Yeah. Like, if the Jazz were, let's say the Jazz are, 2 years behind in their rebuild. Let's say they started it a couple years ago. They still get punished for tanking this year, but they're still 2 years out from a rebuild. And then they need to tank to get a top player in this draft, but they get their first round pick taken away. Like, well, okay, so now they're just going to continue to be bad. Yeah. And you're going to allow teams like, I believe like Orlando, play-in teams. You're going to allow teams like the Warriors or the Trailblazers or the East, not Philly. I want to say it's Orlando, but one of the East play-in teams. You're going to allow the play-in teams and playoff teams to continue to be good by getting these, blue chip, instant contributor guys, and then forcing teams that are worse to go with guys that are worse. It makes absolutely no sense to me, and it makes getting into the NBA as like a relatively new fan, like getting into the association at large, basically impossible. Yeah, it makes it difficult, especially again when you're not giving avenues for the teams who are genuinely struggling, the teams who are genuinely at the bottom of this of the league. You're not giving them the opportunity to get better. Yeah, because free agency basically doesn't exist. And I think that ultimately makes the product of the NBA, that downgrades the product of the NBA. Yeah. That downgrades the basketball. The lottery needs to be fixed. I just don't know if these proposals are it. I would go out on a limb and say that they aren't. Yeah. Like, I looked at all those, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but I know this when I see it. This is not the move. Like, you are overcomplicating things. You're making things too hard to understand and too hard to kind of maneuver around. Yep. If you are a losing team, if if you want parity, which it seems like the NBA doesn't want, it like just on the surface, it seems like they don't want parity. They want a few franchises to be really good for a long time. And that does not make for a good product over time. And it does not bring in new viewers, which the NBA has kind of been struggling with. So it seems like they are not they're not taking the right avenues to fix their problems. They're just trying to do stuff to do stuff.
Yeah. Kennedy Chandler will not be with the Jazz for the final game of the season. His 10-day contract is up. The Jazz did make a signing for Hayden Gray from the Maine Celtics in the G League to come up and possibly play that final game tomorrow for the Utah Jazz. So we'll see if Hayden Gray is in the mix as the Jazz wrap up the season in Los Angeles, the final game for the Jazz of this season. Again, the Kings, too, in action, and they'll be taking on the Portland Trailblazers, and so the 4th or 5th is on the line. We got to take a break here on the Saturday Show. Don't go anywhere. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Napoles and Parker Long taking you through this wonderful Saturday. 5 minutes of, still plenty to talk about, not a lot of time left to do so, but this is going to be a transfer portal edition of 5 minutes of, because the college basketball transfer portal is open, and there's some major news coming down from Provo, from the BYU basketball men's program. Earlier in the week, key contributors, Robert Wright jumping into the portal, Kennard Davis, who at times had a really good season for the Cougs, jumping into the portal, Xavier Stanton in, Dominique Diamande in, Tyler Marusin, KJ Perry, all entering the transfer portal for BYU hoops. And I saw a lot of reaction online with all these guys jumping into the portal and concerns about stuff happening down there in Provo, but I don't think BYU fans have any reason for concern yet.
No, I would agree. If only because I think Kevin Young is a heck of a basketball coach. I don't think you have to worry about that. And I think his spot is safe. I think it's just a byproduct of, the current college atmosphere. Like
exactly.
Still the kind of unfettered transfer portal. You can kind of go anywhere at any time. They are, work is being done to restrict that, but at the moment there is a lot of freedom to move about. And so these guys are taking advantage of that. I really have no issue with that. Go where you feel like you can thrive. If you didn't feel like that was BYU, then like best of luck to all these guys. I feel bad for the front office or the equivalent in Provo for having to build an entirely new roster.
Yeah, that part is, I think, the hard part of it, but ultimately it can be a good thing, because what was, aside from the injuries, what was one of the big conversation points that everybody talked about what held this BYU team back? And it was roster construction. And so now with the transfer portal open and maybe some of these guys leaving, maybe it allows you the opportunity to surround some great talent against somebody like Bruce Branch, who's coming in this next season, Dean Ruckert from Timfie, who's coming in this next season. Surround talent around them, have a little bit more depth, so that way if you do find yourself in a situation where key guys and key contributors are getting injured and are being ruled out for the remainder of the season, or whatever the case may be, you have the better depth to in order to compete in the Big 12. That was, I think, something that I think a lot of fans can agree that held back BYU a lot this season was the lack of depth, and the lack of depth stepping up for BYU in key moments.
Yeah, you had a great top end. AJ DeBansa, he's going to be possibly the number one pick in the NBA draft. Like
should be.
He is that caliber of player. Whether or not a team chooses him first kind of isn't necessarily reflective of how great a talent he is. Then you had, Rob Wright and Reggie Saunders. That was your big three. After that, it was a fairly steep fall off. No. And guys just for one reason or another were not able to step up. The depth just wasn't there. And I think what this allows BYU to do is to sort of reassess the monetary value of certain players coming in and kind of redistribute assets maybe a little more evenly, where maybe you aren't paying, three guys so much money.
Right.
You aren't getting, they're not getting DeBonsa money, but, maybe lower that and flatten it out a little bit so that you have, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that can all come in and contribute, are all good talents and can help you win a national championship, can help push you over that edge that you just haven't been able to push over so far.
I don't remember the exact number it was, but at some point during the season, I'd come across this stat where the bench scoring for BYU was 138th in the country compared to where it was last season. That's a massive fall off.
Yeah, and I think that's a stat that will be reflective of your ability to make it far in the thing that matters in the NCAA tournament. That's what everybody's shooting for, and you need some kind of depth. Even if teams that ended up going far in there didn't utilize their depth to the fullest, they had it. And so that is really what you need, if for no other reason than to have guys step up in the wake of a possible injury. You need that in case something happens to a guy like Richie Saunders again. You can't have that happen and then have that steep fall off. You can't, because then you will end up at the same place you were before. And I don't know if I've ever told you the definition of insanity, but it is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results.
Right.
So that seems to be the spot that BYU is in at the moment. Best of luck to their squad reconstructing their team. It's going to be really interesting to see kind of who they bring in and what these guys can be, what this team can really try and manifest come next season.
And the reason I say that's no need for concern yet for BYU fans is because the transfer portal is open, and I think BYU have more than enough resources to be able to bring in guys who can replenish the roster and can hopefully, again, make BYU be competitive in the Big 12. One of them has already announced that he is, quote, coming home, and that is the Farmington native Colin Chandler, who this morning put out on Instagram that he has committed to BYU. As soon as he entered into the transfer portal, I think everybody felt that he was on his way to BYU, and now it is official, and so Colin Chandler becomes the former Kentucky man, is now coming in from the transfer portal. And it's guys like that who can come in and help BYU from where they were last season. It's guys like that who can come in and, again, make this BYU team competitive, even without AJ DeBonsa, even without Rob Wright, right? Rob Wright's in the portal. There, he can still come back if he chooses to. I don't. We'll see what that situation turns into, but it's guys like that who can come in from the transfer portal and can make a difference next season for BYU heading into what they hope can be a better run that they had than this past year.
Yeah, I think the potential is definitely going to be there. And with Bruce Branch coming in, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if he is quite as highly touted as AJ was coming to BYU, but if he's 75% of what AJ is, he's already a star. So
Absolutely.
you've got a great start. We'll see kind of how the transfer portal develops. As you said, Rob Wright could come back. They could put a little carrot out and see or put a little bait out, see if he comes back, and maybe they sweeten the pot.
And that's just one of the things that's difficult right now with the transfer portal. Is just one of the things that's wrong with the transfer portal right now is the fact that it's a free for all. Anybody can jump in whenever. Anybody can or not whenever, right? But when the period's open. But anybody can jump in and go wherever they want. It's, I think, the reason why we're seeing the mid-majors struggle in the NCAA tournament now. Big shouts to Utah State for being the team, the deepest mid-major this year. But it's why we're seeing the tournament end up being so chalky, is because any guy who's at the mid-major level, any guy who even is on a Power 5 or Power 4, Power 5, whatever you want to call it, like BYU, who maybe didn't have the season he wanted, didn't necessarily have the opportunities that he wanted, he can jump into the portal whenever, and it's just all, it's a free-for-all, man. It's anybody can go wherever they want at any time.
You follow the money, and like these big schools are going to have the most money. You look at Michigan, you look at Florida, you look at all the teams that made it to the Final Four. What do they have in common? Tons and tons and tons of money.
Yeah.
BYU, not short on cash. I think we can both agree that is true. But they may not have quite the level of resources that a Michigan or a Florida or a Houston or whatever has. So it's a weird, interesting balancing act that you got to try and pull off. And like, if you're BYU, you're trying to pull in the best talent you can. Now you've had a pretty good last couple of years with Yegor Demon coming in and succeeding as one of the better players on an admittedly bad Brooklyn Nets team, but like everybody knew they were going to be bad this year because they are still in the middle of tanking. And then AJ, like we said, is worthy of the first overall pick in the NBA draft. So you've had a couple of years of success. So that kind of brings, I think that also helps bring guys. It's like, oh, hey, if I go here, I could be like a lottery pick in the NBA draft.
Yeah.
Like that's got to be very tantalizing to a lot of guys.
It feels like this is such a vital offseason for Kevin Young and that staff down there in Provo, because there was so many expectations. There was Elite Eight aspirations for BYU. Obviously, they fell short of those expectations. Obviously, they fell short of those aspirations. But, again, it's such an important offseason because Kevin Young now has the opportunity to continue to build off that trend of the success that we've seen BYU have the last couple of years. And so, Gary, I'm curious to see what Kevin Young brings in through the portal. I think he's already picked up a really, really solid player, a diamond, if you will, in Colin Chandler. And he'll be playing for BYU. So we'll see. Utah State they picked up a big guy from UNI, somebody following Ben Jacobson, but I think more so importantly, Carson Templin, who was in the portal, has decided to return to Utah State. He is re-signed, as they put out earlier this, or I think it was a week ago today, literally as soon as we jumped off air. Carson Templin.
Of course.
Yeah. Carson Templin it's out there that he's returning to Logan. He's sticking around. But the even bigger one, Mason Falslev, re-signed at Utah State. He's sticking around. And so even more so than bringing in guys through the portal, even more so than building a roster and building a squad through guys who are in the transfer portal, you hold on to two key pieces of the culture up there in Logan and Mason Falslev and Carson Templin. Ben Jacobson is off to a hot start up there in Logan with retention.
And I think that is definitely the most important thing for Utah State. And if you're any kind of mid-major program like that, where you've seen some success in the NCAA tournament, you've got a little higher profile, you're not UNI, you're kind of like mid-major programs and lower are playing a very different game than, major Power 4 programs, where they have the limitations of not only money, but reputation, where they don't have as much pull. So keeping the guys that they have that are good and fit in well with the culture, fit in well schematically. Now, I'm not sure what will change between Jared Calhoun and Ben Jacobson schematically.
Yeah.
But I trust that Mason Falslev and Carson Templin are good enough players to make that transition, whatever it might be. They are two really big key keeps for Utah State because they also just mean so much to the team, to the university, like to that program, that it keeps fans engaged. If if you're flipping over the team year in and year out like you are head coaches because they do so well, it is harder as a fan to be engaged with the team because your favorite players are gone. Mason Falslev, if he's your favorite player for Utah State, he's still there. You're doing cartwheels right now.
Yes.
Because he's coming back, and you can wear your Mason Falslev jersey if you got it, and you can scream as loud as you want up at the Spectrum, which they love. They love to have you do. It's going to be great for every part of this. So keeping those guys super, super, super important.
I think if you're able, so obviously Carson Templin jumps into the portal, but then a couple days later, it is announced that he is returning. There are some fabulous freshmen in the transfer portal right now for Utah State. And Adeline Elamine and Elijah Perriman, who were expected to enter the transfer portal. If you're able to get those guys to commit to come back, I think Utah State, Ben Jacobson, are in an even more phenomenal spot than they already are with just the return of Mason Falslev and Carson Templin. So that's probably next on the to-do list. Figure out a way to get Elijah Perriman and Adeline Elamine to stick around in Logan.
Oh, definitely.
1,000%.
They were really good this year. Definitely kind of rough around the edges, being freshmen. But you get them a full off season. You expect that. You get them a full off season. You get them integrated into the new system. They're still around. The day-to-day operations of how they live their lives, their routines and everything, don't have to change. So that's one easy thing to kind of get them going and hit the ground running on the actual basketball part of it. So yeah, keep those guys. They were really excellent. They got a lot of potential. And Utah State hung around with that team hung around with Arizona better than anybody. One of the best teams in the country. Yeah. What did they lose by 3?
No, it was a little. They ended
6?
up. They ended up pulling away a little bit there at the very, very end, but I think it was a 4-point game with about 4 minutes left.
Yeah, it was close, and it was a lot closer than anybody thought. So if you're able to keep that obviously very talented and core with good chemistry and everything, do that. That's your priority right there, because you're not going to get the huge names. You see what works, use that.
Absolutely.
If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
If it ain't broke,
if you can help
not
it,
fix it.
Not everything is in your power there, but do everything you can in your power to make that happen.
Absolutely. We got to take a break. We'll wrap it up on the other side. We'll take you through today's schedule and get you ready for another Saturday here on the KSL Sports Zone. That and more coming up next here on the Saturday Show. It is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Napoles and Parker Long. Parker filling in again for Christian Esparza, who's on his baby sabbatical, enjoying some time off with the family. We love Christian, man. What an awesome dude, and for him to bring in life into the world, and for him now to be just chilling with his family, man. Love it for him. And but we miss him. I miss him.
I miss him too.
Yeah, it's quiet around here without him. But Parker's doing a phenomenal job filling in, man.
Oh, thank you. I'm blushing back here. You can't see, but I am.
Rory McIlroy. Hey, it's Masters weekend, and Rory leads by 6 shots. He set a 36-hole Masters record yesterday with 6 birdies over his final 7 holes for a 7-under 65 that left everybody in shock. JJ was in shock yesterday after it happened, and Rory doing a fun. Give him his green jacket. He's coming back for it. He wants it. It is so. If you're watching the Masters weekend, enjoy it. Enjoy some golf this weekend, and let's have some fun with it. Parker, today's schedule looks like this: the Utah Mammoth taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. Pregame comes up at 2 p.m. on 97.5. And then you can catch the Salt Lake Bees at the Reno Aces. Pregame coming up at 4:50 p.m. And you can catch that on our 1280 signal. Parker, anything else you want to add before we wrap this one up, man?
Well, first, I'm going to be producing the Mammoth game. So let's hope it's an exciting one. A nice win at home over Carolina. And, just nail down that wild card 1 spot. I also did want to say my plans for Monday, in case anyone was interested, I'm going to be watching the WNBA draft.
Hey, there you go.
That happens at 7 p.m. Eastern on Monday. Watch it. It's going to be awesome.
There you go.
I'm super stoked for the W.
The Jazz and the Lakers. Again, that is the final game of the Jazz for this NBA season. That is also coming up tomorrow here on the station. You can catch pregame starting up at 5:30 p.m. tip-off between the Jazz and the Lakers at 6:30. And for those of you who have, of course, the interest in the Jazz and where they're going to end up with the lottery, the Kings and the Blazers tip-off at the same time, 6:30. So keep an eye on that game and see where the Jazz land. If they end up with a tie, it'll come down to that coin flip, man. And then after that, the NBA, it's a wrap on the NBA season. It's going to be a wrap here on the Saturday show, too. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for making us a part of your Saturday. Don't forget to download the KSL Sports app so you can take us anywhere you go. And don't forget to tune in all week long to listen to DJ and PK, listen to Jake and Ben, listen to Scotty and Friends, and then, of course, listen to JJ and Alex as we recap the weekend of sports. This is the Saturday show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.